fallen.
Zorn, why is everything a battle with you?
What? This is like the least amount of battling I've ever done. And it's killing me inside.
You know what? I'm gonna rise above this. Hey, Alan, you wanna get in the water and help me do an underwater flip?
No thanks. It takes like 3 hours for my hair to dry.
All right, well, where's your mom? She's not one to turn down a cool dip.
Sorry, I was just using the bathroom. Oh no, what happened?
My peaceful kingdom was destroyed by a meanie.
Edie, tell Craig to speak up.
Well, honey, I warned you not to build it there.
That's right, Craig. Retreat to the ocean, along with the whales and octopuses and... he can't hear me. All right, let's see what else we got here. Who else wants to challenge the throne? Oh, look at these wannabes. Oh, I missed that sound.
The legendary Tim Meadows. Is that fair?
That's a weird thing to hear in front of your name.
What do you think it implies?
Soon to be the late.
Well, we've got plans for you backstage, Tim. So
What's
watch your
happening
back.
here?
Well, you were the longest running cast member of SNL up until Daryl Hammond beat you out, right?
Yeah.
10 years?
10 years, and it was 10 long, beautiful years. I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. I don't know who's in the number one or longest running person now. I have no idea.
I think it's Daryl then you.
Really?
I think so.
No,
No, Keenan might be.
Yeah,
10
he's been
years
there
now,
for a
right?
while. Yeah.
Right.
Darn it. Took my record.
Son of Zorn. I love the show. It's hilarious.
Thanks.
I could do my best to explain it to the audience right now, but I want you to explain something.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Explain yourself.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, well, this show, as you probably saw it, it's a hybrid show. It's like animation in real life. And the storyline is Zorn and Edie were married years ago. She was in Zephyria, this animated country in the South Pacific. And already it's a long, hard to explain. But they were married at one time, and they had a kid. Then they got divorced. She moved back to America. And then Zorn decided to come and move back to America to be with his son and his ex-wife.
It's a fish out of water story. He's kind of a different person from a different world than everybody else.
Yeah, he's from a world that's like a barbaric wasteland, basically, is what it is. But it's an animated world, and we as like Americans, we accept that this animated world exists. That's what happens in the show.
That's true. No one questions it at all. No one questions why he's animated, where he's from. It's just that's who he is.
Exactly. It'd be like if you saw somebody from Denmark walking around in wooden shoes in America. You would just go, for a second, you'd be like, oh, shit, look at those shoes. And then that'd be it. You'd be like, oh, yeah, I know those shoes exist. I know people wear them, and so it's fine.
Just leave it at that.
Yeah, you notice it for a second, and then you accept it, because you already know it's real.
And who's your character?
My character is Craig. Craig is the fiance of Edie, the Zorn's ex-wife. Yeah, Cheryl, the woman that I'm touching in the picture. That's true. And so, yeah, she's in love with me because I'm a online psychologist.
Which is not emasculating.
It's not. No, it's a little. The thing is, my character is the exact opposite of Zorn. So Edie is now with his stable, he teaches psychology at an online college. He's very laid back and mild mannered, and they have a very, active love life. So that's the thing that you're surprised to find out about Craig.
I don't think I've seen where that comes up yet.
No, spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert, they have an active love life.
Yes. Be prepared for the crazy sex. That's all I can say.
How did you get involved in the show?
How did I get involved? It's another long story. It's longer than the actual explaining the show. And I was shooting a movie called Pop Star.
Yes.
And yeah, thank you. I'm gonna wait for that to die down before I start talking. It's one of my favorite jobs ever. Was Pop Star. I love that movie. I'll talk about that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Pop Star is amazing. It's one of the best comedy movies. Just straight comedy movies to come out in a long time.
Yes, it's very, very funny. But I was shooting that movie, and these guys came to the set, and they saw me working. Lord Miller, Chris Miller, and Phil Lord.
Creator, the 21, 22 Jump Street directors, yeah.
Yes. Thanks for throwing that out there, because...
Just defining who they are.
Yeah, good. Define a way, will you? So they came and saw me working, and they really liked what I was doing on camera. And so they called my manager and asked if was interested in shooting this presentation, which is not a pilot. It's just sort of like, it's not even the promise of an actual job. It's sort of like going and just doing a shoot for a friend. That's what it was like. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. But it wasn't like a high pressure thing. It was sort of like, we're trying out this thing. We want to show it to Fox. Would you do it? And I said, yeah, I'll be happy to do it for the right amount of moolah.
Was it a presentation because they were
That's cash. I don't know if you guys, you're young. Moolah, that's from the 40s.
Oh yeah, cash.
It
That's
was-
moolah. Yeah, got it.
It was big during the Prohibition. Come on, kids. Anyways, they had some moolah to make me, so I did it, and I thought it was really funny when I read the script. I thought, oh, this is going to be really interesting, you know, and these guys are really good, smart producers, and they would bring in the right creative people. And so that was it. I did it.
Was it only a presentation because they were testing the animation at that point?
Yes. So, yeah, exactly. They wanted to show the executives at Fox what it was going to look like. Like, if we got to shoot this whole thing, this is what it would, sort of the tone of it, how the animation and the real life actors would work together. And so in the very beginning, especially in the pilot, it was sort of an experiment for me too. I didn't really know what I was doing. And I felt like when I watched the second episode, I was like, oh, that's when I got it. I saw the scene, and I was like, okay, I know what this is now. I know how to do this.
What are you acting against when you're doing the scenes?
When we rehearse the scene, we have the guy who plays who is a stand-in for Zorn. He's this actor. He's about 6'3", 6'4". He does improv with UCB in L.A. His name is Dan Lippert, and he'll read Zorn's lines while we're shooting it or rehearsing it. And then when we shoot the actual scene, he'll go up behind camera and say the lines. So if you were the Zorn character and you were Dan, you would get up and leave, and then I'd still have this conversation, looking at where you are right now, but there would be nobody there.
So it's all about
sort of like acting with me when you if you
So
ever
who
acted
is
with
sort
me.
of going after your eye? This is maybe a boring question for people, but your eye
No,
line.
not at all.
Who's going like, no, your eye line needs to be just like a little bit higher, a little bit lower? Because I'd
The
imagine
camera-
that's hard to maintain.
The camera guys and the director is usually telling you, like, they can sort of sense where you need to look, and then when Dan gets up, they'll put an X or a light stand or something,
Right.
like on a light stand, and then we act to that X. So like some days you're like, you feel nuts because you're like, having scenes where you're just talking to an X on a wall, and you're like, oh, what are you talking about, Zorn? You're like emoting to this X, and it's sort of weird. And having Dan there off camera, he's good at improv. So if we get silly, he can handle it, and like he stays with us. Or sometimes he'll do something off camera, and it'll spur us on to another line or to another. It just makes the scene like more like real, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Is that okay, guys? All right.
Moolah. Don't worry, Tim. Moolah. You had them at Moolah.
Good. I don't know.
I want to ask you about your time at SNL. You were at SNL during the OJ days,
Yes.
the OJ Simpson trial. And just this past year, we saw the FX sort of OJ Redux, if you will.
Yes.
People versus OJ Simpson. An incredible show. But what was that like for you as a member of that cast at the time? Like, did you watch any of that show? Did it resonate for you in a different way? Did it feel different watching them sort of have a completely different take than the rest of the world and the comedy world did at the time that you were at SNL?
Watching the show, it was very weird to watch the movie because in the beginning I thought it was like campy, and then as it kept going, you realize that it was actually like serious, but it was sort of funny. It was sort of weird to watch it because I was like, they're actually doing this. They're like, actually doing this whole thing.
Well, when it starts with Schwimmer as Kardashian and Travolta as the lawyer, you're like, are you guys fucking kidding me right now? What are we doing? And then Sarah Paulson shows up and you're like, oh, we're not. This is a good show.
Yeah,
Okay.
like, and then the guy that played Darden was also really good, and he like grounded it. But then Travolta got really good too.
halfway
did.
halfway through, Travolta was like, oh, you wanted me to be serious? Okay, I can do that too.
No, he saw everybody was bringing their A game. Like the third episode, he was like, "Fuck that! I'm gonna act good too."
I'll turn the eyebrows down just a little bit. Okay,
Yeah.
fine.
Oh man.
But
But
was
it was strange watching it though, because back in the day when we were doing sketches on SNL, it was sort of like commenting on what had just happened, like all of those events that you saw. We were like doing it, and for me to actually be OJ was weird, and it was weird because it was such a serious, it was a big crime. It was a sad crime, So in the beginning, it wasn't easy to like bring comedy to it. But then once the trial started, that's when it started to, you had something to like sort of focus on. But OJ it was weird because I was a big OJ fan when I was a kid. I was like a huge OJ fan, and so it was kind of it was strange to see somebody that you dug actually was being charged with double homicide. It's like I had his jersey when I was a kid. I don't know.
I was just watching like an old clip of that where they did the jury goes to OJ's house and they're like posing for photos with you as OJ kind of in front of all the memorabilia, being like, not guilty. Do you miss? You did 10 years at SNL, as we said. When we're in the midst of an election like this, do you miss being at SNL? Do you miss sort of being a part of the mix around like sort of national hysteria, like what's going on right now?
Boy, yes, I do, actually. I
I
mean,
imagine it's cathartic to a degree.
yeah, but I'm sort of removed from it because I've been gone for a long time. So, when I first left, yes, I used to think, oh God, I wish I could do a sketch this week, and then you watch the show and you realize, oh, they're really good. They're in capable hands. There's nothing that I can do that would make SNL any better or more interesting. You know what I mean?
Purely for selfish reasons.
Yes,
Like-
exactly. And those guys, like you want to see somebody who used to work at your job come back around your job and hang out. Yeah, it's not fun for you. It's fun for nobody.
Oh, hey, Tim.
Hey guys, I got a sketch. It's OJ 2016.
Oh, you're not going to do this? I'm a veteran, okay?
You have to do it.
Lorne. But that's you are still kind of taking part though, because you did the Triumph election special with Robert Smigel, which is I think, as I told you in the green room, I think is the best election comedy that's coming out right now. It's anarchic, it's crazy, it's offensive, it's amazing.
Did you guys see that or no? Yeah, you saw some of it?
But in your scene, you got to play Dr. Ben Carson.
Yeah.
And you went into a diner.
Diner in Iowa during the primaries, and just went in and sort of asked these people how they were doing and stuff, and just started talking to them. And then some of them thought that I was actually Ben Carson. And
Did anyone know that you weren't Ben Carson? Because you weren't like doing an insane Ben Carson impression or anything.
No, because I don't do any insane impressions. All my impressions are like pretty mediocre. But no, I wasn't. I was just trying to be. Robert Smigel, who's the writer and the creator of Triumph. He was like, I just want you to be really mild-mannered, because the joke was, will they think that any mild-mannered black man walking into this diner, could he possibly be Ben Carson? And that was
a joke if it's true, because they did.
Yeah, they did, and there was some, it was like really awkward in the beginning, because I was like, I asked him, I was like, Robert, do you want me to actually tell them that I'm Ben Carson if they ask me? And because I think that might be against the law, and I could actually be arrested. And he was like, yes, I want you to say that you're Ben Carson. That was like, he really wanted me to do it. So yeah, it was fun. There was a couple of plants in there, because we had this thing with a knife. So there was a couple of people who I was supposed to reenact Ben Carson getting stabbed, that story that he told, which was just insane. That his belt buckle blocked the knife. like if you stab somebody, you're gonna go right for that area.
It's crazy that this election, there's been so many bonkers, crazy stories and things to have happened since that one.
Yeah.
But I think most people are like, "What story are you referring?" to? Like in most past elections, everyone would be like, "Oh yeah, that crazy event."
Yes. No, this has all been insane.
One thing after another.
Yeah. Like I flew here from Chicago, and I was anxious to see if something crazy had happened just during the flight from Chicago to New York. I was like, I'm sure Trump, spit on somebody or something. Something crazy has happened, because it happened so quick, and then everybody forgets. You just go, oh, it's just this insane year or something. But we all just sort of write it off. But you shouldn't just write it off. You shouldn't just let them go. You shouldn't even let people say, I'm sorry. You know what I mean?
I agree, yeah.
I just think it's crazy.
I think at a rally 2 days ago, he said, is there anyone here who's not Christian and conservative? Raise your hand. You're out of here. You can't.
That's your base.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know. I'm actually looking forward to seeing what they do on SNL this week.
Oh, that's right, Saturday night. So do you regularly watch SNL and check in and sort of
Yes. I sit up in my PJs and get a big bowl of popcorn. I have those old-fashioned PJs with the hat that goes like that. And socks connected to the pants. It's like a long john thermal underwear sort of outfit. But I do. Me and the other former SNL members, we all get together and...
In your PJ outfits?
Yes, in one big bed in Adam Sandler's mansion somewhere.
SNL and PJs night.
But no, I do watch it. But I watch it Sunday mornings now. I don't really watch it because I have kids, so I'm usually trying to go to bed around 11. Ladies. Doesn't that sound sexy? Yeah, baby. It's 11. It's 10:55. You know what's gonna happen next.
Little Leon coming out for everybody.
I'm going to sleep in about 5 minutes. That's what's gonna happen.
After 10 years on SNL, what made you depart?
Depart?
Leave.
What made me depart? I felt like I'd been there long enough. I felt like I had done the things that you want to do with that show and being there. And I kind of thought you have to sort of give it up and give other people a chance. I'm waiting for this cop car to go by. I'm sure everything is fine. But just let me get out of here first if anything is up, all right? Talent this way. Audience, hold on. We got to let the legend get out of the building.
Well, we don't want the legend to be gone, like you said.
No, right. But what was the question? I forgot now.
Just sort of what the decision behind leaving SNL.
Yeah, it was just, I felt like I'd done everything you sort of want to do on this show. I kind of felt like it was time to give other people a chance and to not put the pressure on the show to, give me employment. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't want them to be like, oh, well, we got to have Tim in a sketch this week because he's a veteran or whatever. And then the other part was just personally in my personal life. My ex, had just gotten married, and we hadn't really spent a lot of time together. So that was the other thing. It was just time to.
You got something here. What do you got?
No, because I got divorced eventually. So I'm like, why is she? I can't say anything negative because she's the mother of my kids, and I love my kids. But I was sort of like thinking like, oh, wow, that's right, I did that because of that, and now look where I'm at. It was a waste of everyone's time. Why didn't I just stay on the show? I could have been wealthier, I could be in New York.
You were there, though, not to stay on SNL too long, but when you're there for 10 years, you see an incredible crossover of talent that you got to be a part of, where you were a part of the sort of Mike Myers, Adam Sandler day, and then you were also part of the Will Ferrell, Tina Fey day, and
Right.
There was that middle period in between the two where critics were saying that SNL was dead at that point, and SNL was gone. But both those eras of talent have given us some of the greatest comedic talent that there's ever been.
Yeah. That's why you can't really trust what critics say. You really can't. you have to watch something and judge for yourself if you like it or if if you don't like it. There was a lot of shows like during the period where they were like, oh, this show is not cool or it sucks or whatever. But it's like there were scenes in those shows that were just as funny as any scenes ever. But it was because like you're under this like critical backlash that everybody sort of buys into that idea. And that was like the hardest time to go to work and actually because you started like second guess your ideas because you go, oh well, I think this will be funny, but will the critics not like it? And then at a certain point you have to just keep doing it because you think something is funny.
And critics are usually wrong when I love movie critics, I love TV critics, but usually wrong when it comes to comedy. Comedy always, the shelf life of comedy is always much greater than anything else because it's not appreciated that much when it comes out. It's like a year later, everyone was like, God, this movie is so funny. Like Pop Star, I think, is going to be one of those movies where, like, in a year, people are going to rediscover it, like they did with Hot Rod, Andy Samberg's Hot Rod.
Yeah.
They're going to say, what happened? This movie is amazingly funny. Like,
yeah.
I saw Pop Star. I was on the floor laughing at times in the theater. I thought it was so great.
Thanks.
And then there was there was a slight critical backlash to it. And I was like, what do you want from this movie? It's funny.
I mean, even like with that movie was one of those question marks to me, which was like a lot of the reviews that I read were really good and positive about the movie, and there were some that weren't as positive or whatever. But but all in all, it got good reviews, but it didn't do well at the box office. It didn't do big numbers, so people think that it's you think that that means that it wasn't funny, but it was very funny. It just, for whatever reason, I don't know. I have no idea about how it all works. You just sort of, as an actor, you just sort of do it and then you sort of like let it go. But yeah, I watched the movie with my kids and I just thought they were laughing pretty hard at it. I mean, I'm trying to think, did I actually let my, we were watching the outtakes on DVD. I haven't let them watch the whole movie yet. We were watching outtakes and stuff, and yeah, it was just really funny. I watched it myself, though, and I thought it was really good.
Did you have a good time shooting Pop Star?
Yes, it was so much fun. I love those guys. I do. It was very open, and there was a lot of improv, and I don't know. You have to see the movie. I mean, but they would just throw lines out to you when you were like, or if you just came up with something while you were doing it, like. Some of it didn't even make the movie. Some of my favorite stuff, like there was this one scene where we were watching Chris Redd's character, who's hungry. What was his name? I forgot his name. It was like Hungry's Got to Eat or something. But he's a rapper. He's sort of like Tyler, the Creator. And we're watching it from the side, and we're just like, supposed to be watching him, and I'm trying to talk Andy's character into letting him open for us. And I keep going. We were all just watching it, and I just kept going. The kids love him, And then, but we just kept watching it. And then I kept saying that same phrase because it was like a 1950s like agent would say something like that. Look at the kids love him. He's good. And I kept repeating that phrase like in different ways, And it kept making those guys laugh, and we couldn't get through it because I would go, "Boy, there's a lot of kids in here. And they really love him," And I would just say stuff like that over and over in different takes. And we would just bust. It was just really fun. Those guys are hysterical. It was great.
How often do you find that you get to have that experience when you're shooting a movie or a TV show where you have the freedom to just kind of like really try to bust each other up the whole time?
Not a lot, because a lot of the jobs that I do, it's not my project. I'm just going to work on it. Sort of that. If that's the way they work, like somebody like Judd Apatow, that's how he works. Like in Trainwreck, the scenes that we shot were all basically just improv. He was basically say like, here's the lines. Like we'd have a little script, but then we would just improvise other things on top of it, And so if you work with somebody that works like that all the time, it's great. But I'm going to different projects just working as an actor, so I have to sort of come into it sometimes where I have to know all the lines as is written. Like the Goldbergs, I appear on that show as this teacher, guidance counselor. And on that show, it's a lot. They want you to stick to the lines. Very, very little. Sorry, I think my Siri just went off. Sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
Sure, what you said.
Oh, I said my ass is fat. Sorry, Siri. I didn't mean to cut you on. That was my ass hitting a button. Sorry.
Sweet nothings to Siri over there. Well, that's because I mean the Goldbergs and even like Son of Zorn is the beats are very meticulous when it comes to those shows. A 22-minute comedy, like you really have to hammer those.
Yes, you do. I mean, and also they see it a certain way, you know. So they see the dialogue and everything else a certain way, and they want it a certain way. So you try to deliver that as an actor. Sometimes I'll just say, just tell me what you want. Just tell me what you want, and I'll do it. Like, if you want me to stand here and say it, then I'll stand here and say it. If you want me to walk and say it, I'll do it. If you know, just tell me so we can all get the fuck out of here.
You talked about improvisation a little bit. One of my favorite scenes that you've ever been in, and I feel like I'm doing a Tim Meadows greatest hits, but it's worth it.
No, I'm a legend. I deserve it.
You are a legend, my friend. You are a legend. Is Curb Your Enthusiasm with J.B. Smoove, where you think that J.B. Smoove is Larry pretending to be black, and you say, "Fuck you, Larry."
Yeah.
Was J.B. Smoove in the room with you doing that scene? Who was doing his part with you for the phone? And when you saw it, did you know it was going to be anything like that? Because it's his moment in that scene is amazing.
Yeah, because I know he was not there when we shot it, and I think if I remember right, Dave Mandel, who's like the showrunner for Veep, you know, they just won the. Mandel, I think, was reading it on the other end because he was like, I think he was sort of like there that day. But it was not me. We were not together. He shot his separately, and then they told me what he was saying, and then they just wanted me to like, I don't know. It's hard to explain. They wanted me to talk on top of what he was saying, so they played it for me, and then they were like, okay, say it again here, say this here, you know. So that was how it was. That was one of those experiences of like working like where you use improv. That is just, Curb was great. I only did one episode, but when I auditioned, it was just like one sentence. It said, Larry is going to run into you in the bathroom and ask you to explain why your wife's dog is so ugly. And that was basically what was on the paper, you know? And so we just did that scene in front of the casting directors, and it was Larry David and you know, and I was there, and we just sort of like talked, and then you have a natural, it's sort of a natural way to go with him is to be confrontational with him for some reason. Like as an actor, it like pulls you out of it. You just go, and that's what I started doing. During the audition, I would say, no, you go and apologize to her. I have to apologize to her for other things. You did this, so you got to go apologize to her. And so and this, when we got on this set, it was completely different than what we did in the rehearsal. He like had it, like he had these other beats that he wanted to get in, you know, and then while we were improvising it, he thought of something really funny, and then he said, okay, stop. Okay, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna say that line again, and then we'll keep going. Because he knew what he wanted, he knew where he was going, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it was the joke, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but he was saying that when you have to apologize to a person with disabilities, that is always an extra thing you got to do. So he goes like, so your wife is deaf, so she might not, you know, be able to hear me, so I got to either write it down or I got to do sign language. I mean, if she was in a wheelchair, then that means that I got to walk. So he started explaining why it was difficult to apologize to people with disabilities. And during I think I said to him something like, you know, this happens to you a lot. You know, you find yourself doing that a lot, you know. But it was just improv. But it was his ideas, and I dug the way he worked because it was like he had something funny, and then he was like, okay, hold on. We're going to go back because I know what I'm going to say something else now. Right. You know, he's a genius, man.
And he's naturally confrontational, just like you would imagine his character is?
No, he's not. But like his character draws that out of you in the scene that they set up. Like in the scene, I'm supposed to tell him that he has to go and apologize to my wife for insulting our dog. He wants me to admit that the dog is ugly. That's what the scene was. And so when you put those things together, it's a natural confrontation because we both want different things from each other. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so, so you naturally start having a confrontation with them. But yeah, it was fun.
Do you feel like you're regularly cast these days? I mean, including that as like mild-mannered? As like a nice, mild-mannered man?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
Like Son of Zorn, fairly mild-mannered. I think in that Curb episode, you're confrontational, but you're like a good man who's like protecting his wife, and it would normally be mild-mannered if not confronted with Larry David's character.
That's a very good question. I've never realized that. But yes, I guess I get cast as a mild-mannered. I like to think of a mild-mannered guy, but he has an edge. He's a secret nobody knows.
Everybody wants an edge.
Yeah.
No one wants to just be mild-mannered.
I guess I don't know. I guess with things I've been doing lately, it's been that way. I don't know. I don't know if it's just the way I am, that's the way they see me, or I'm sort of stereotyped into being a nice guy, even though I know I'm not. I'm really not that nice of a guy. But no, I have a lot of charm. That's what I have, right, ladies? It's 11:55. You know what's gonna happen next. You gonna be watching me sleep.
Let's open it up to the audience for questions.
Hi, Tim.
Hi.
So I think SNL has been quite a staple in American culture. I think it's been so loved by so many generations. Like, we just saw Kate McKinnon win an Emmy for it. So I was just wondering, what do you think contributed to its longevity?
I would say the versatility of the people that they hire. I think having a new cast, people come in and slowly changing over. You have younger people coming in with new ideas, new energy, new viewpoints. I think having a show that's a variety of things, So like you have a sketch with a recurring character, you have a political sketch, you have a sketch about family, you have some pop culture sketch. So you mix it up, and then you have really cool musical acts. I think that sort of thing is like, it doesn't sort of wear out because it's different every time.
The whole idea of the show is that it maintains relevancy. It's almost impossible for it to not be relevant.
Yeah, especially because it's live too. That's the other thing. It's live, and if something has happened that day, you'll probably see it on the show that night.
Do you have a favorite SNL sketch that you took part in, or one that you always look back on fondly?
I think the one, I did this sketch, I guess my favorite, it's probably the Census Taker with Christopher Walken. I don't know if you ever saw that. You guys know that sketch? So I play a census taker, and I go to Christopher Walken's, his apartment, and I'm asking him about who lives there. And first he says it's just him and his wife, but they also have a bobcat. And I go, well, we don't count the bobcat if you have a bobcat. And he goes, well, we have some plants too. We have a bunch of plants that live here. And I'm like, no, it's not. We're just counting people. And then he goes, okay, well, 40 people live here. It's a really funny sketch. I don't know. I can't recite it.
Who wrote that sketch?
Tina Fey actually wrote
Really?
that. Yeah.
Wow.
It's, thanks. I'll tell her you clapped. There was a smattering of applause, Tina. I'm sure you still got it, honey.
Was there a sketch that you remember?
Oh, but let me just say.
Oh, yeah, please.
The reason that's one of my favorite sketches because it was what I would say is a perfectly written sketch. It has a premise, two people come together. There's information exchanged, and it's about something that could actually happen, and it becomes absurd really quickly. And that's just my favorite kind of sketch.
Do you have a favorite disaster sketch where you cracked up or somebody else cracked up too hard? I mean, Fallon was known in his time. I think he's the ultimate crack up on SNL.
Yeah.
But do you have a sketch that you remember where you lost it a little bit?
Well, the one that I know for a fact my stomach was hurting because we were laughing so hard was I did this sketch. It only aired in Dress, but they played it. It got online somehow. But it's called Perspectives, and with Lionel Osborne. And it was a sketch I did and Chris Rock was the guest host, so he was my guest on the show. And I don't know if you know the sketch, but Perspectives, it was a show that was on. It aired at 4:45 in the morning, and it was a community service program that, and then because the FCC, they have rules that you have to have local community programming for every ethnicity in your city. And so this was like a show that they gave this guy. He sort of found out that they had to do it, so he started doing this show, and they put it on at 4:45 in the morning. And he wasn't a very good interviewer, so he would only repeat the things that had just been mentioned to him. So if you said, like, if you were the guest and you went, yeah, I work in community service, and he'd go, well, that's great. Well, it's 4:47 in the a.m., and you're watching Perspectives. I'm sitting here with John Smith, and he's a community activist. So, John, what city you live in?
New York City.
That's great. Well, it's 4:47 in the a.m. Talking to John Smith. He lives in New York City. That's the Big Apple. That's what they call that city. And so anyway, I did that sketch with Chris Rock. And Chris, I don't think he really paid much attention to the sketch as it was written. And the sketch was about the Million Man March, and I was interviewing Chris's character. And Chris was a guy who was really gung-ho about the Million Man March. And then the more questions I asked him, it's revealed that he's a horrible father. And so me and Chris are doing the sketch, and I hear look in Chris' eyes, and I can just see him starting to cry. And he's going, because the information that he's giving me, I go, so you're excited about this, so you must be a father. And he goes, yeah, I got 3 kids. I have 3 kids with 3 different women, but, and really I haven't seen my oldest son in about a year, I guess. And then Chris looks at me, and he just starts crying, because he actually gets the joke of the sketch, is that he's a horrible father, And we both just started laughing. Like, I was crying. I was crying laughing, because what was funny to me was that he didn't even fucking read the sketch. And he got it while we were actually doing it in front of an audience. And then the band started laughing. Like, we were on the home base. When people walk out on SNL, the band is behind them back there. We were on home base. They had a set, behind us. And so the band, SNL band, is behind the set, and they were the first ones to start laughing at the sketch, because they got it, because those guys see everything, And so they got the joke of the sketch, and so we could hear them laughing before the audience started laughing, because the audience is just sort of sit there watching it, because it's a slow sketch. It's like me repeating stuff. But after, literally after a minute, the audience gets it. They get the timing of it. They get that everything that person says, I'm going to turn to you and say just what you just heard. And so Lauren, God bless him, would always put Perspectives on at 10 to 1.
The last sketch.
The last sketch of the show. And so there would be some weeks where he would go, you have time. And that meant that I could take my time and let the sketch slowly play itself out. And then if we had to speed it up because the show was ending, the stage manager would go, wrap it up. And then I would go, yeah, it was 4:45 a.m. Just speed through it. But Lauren used to say, you got time, or he would go speed it up. So it was, that was my favorite thing.
I'm going to look up that sketch, The Dress Room. So I think we have time for a couple more questions. Next question.
Hi, Tim. Thank
Hi.
you for being here.
Sure.
What's it like working with Cheryl Hines and Johnny Pemberton on Son of Zorn?
Thank you. Are you from Fox? They're like, somebody get this thing back onto the show that he's here to promote. Yes, Mr. Murdoch. I got it covered. This is what it's a lot of fun working those guys. Cheryl is very funny, and she has a weird timing with her dialogue, to the point that sometimes I think that she has forgotten her line. And sometimes I would get ready to say it for her, or and then once I got used to the way she performed, became a lot of fun. And I don't know how the show was originally supposed to go, but Cheryl and I have a really good chemistry with each other, and so it sort of shows. If you watch the shows we go on, you sort of see us all sort of come together as a cast. It was really fun. That's why I really hope that people get to see everything because it slowly unveils itself, and you realize that it's like a crazy and world that they've created. And Johnny is really great, really funny. He makes me laugh a lot. He's a very nice guy, and he's older than you think.
I sort of do that when I turned it on when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
I think I saw this kid in a movie like 10 years ago playing a teenager.
He will always play a teenager. He's gonna be like Ron Howard, you know. This crowd is young. You know who Ron Howard is, right? Yeah, Opie.
The only way for him
He was a kid forever. He always played a teenager.
The only way for him to not play a teenager is to become a world famous director.
Yes.
One more question.
Hey, do you have any Mean Girls the Musical gossip or advice for the future Mr. Duvals?
Oh, that's good. I have no news or gossip. I'm glad that I wasn't even considered for the Broadway show because it would be horrible. I can't sing at all. See, I'm horrible. No, it's not good. Trust me. But I have no advice. I would, those guys are gonna do what they want to do. It's gonna be a trip to see it from my perspective, to see the character that I played in a movie on dancing and singing and prancing around like an idiot. My character should probably not be dancing. That's the only thing I hope, is that he doesn't dance. But yeah, I'll be interested to see. That was like the one acting job that I had where I like went into it with like some backstory, and so I hope that sort of comes across in the play.
What prompted that backstory?
I was just trying to figure out who this guy was, like after I read the script and everything, and it seemed to me from the dialogue that he was just really did not want to be at that school anymore. And I played the whole year as though I'm quitting as soon as the prom is over, like at the end of the thing. And then Tina's character and I started dancing together at the end. And so I kind of thought, oh, he's going to stay. If there was if there was a good sequel, they would have gotten together. Sometimes you just go into projects not really knowing what you're doing. Yeah.
Shade thrown.
What's that?
Shade thrown at that sequel.
Shade thrown.
Tim,
this is so funny because I don't think they know what I'm talking about.
I don't think they know that there's a Mean Girls sequel, to be honest with you.
There was a Mean Girls 2. And I was
bad?
in it. I didn't even know I was in it. I woke up one day and I was like, I did what? What happened? You were in Atlanta for 2 weeks. No.
Just blackout drunk the whole time.
I don't know what happened.
Son of Zorn. What nights is Son of Zorn on? When can people see it?
Sunday night at 8:30.
Sunday night at 8:30. And
Yeah.
you are at the Just for Laughs Festival in Toronto coming up, right?
This weekend. I'm going there tomorrow.
This weekend, if you're in Toronto, Tim's going to be at Just for Laughs.
Yeah. And
check out Son of Zorn. Tim, thanks so much for being here, man.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.